What's very unique about silver is this duality in demand between an asset that's experienced a monetary renaissance and all of the ever increasing industrial and military uses. And in a world that is going green and digital, the need for silver is massive. Now, when you put it in the context geologically, it becomes a lot more interesting. Geologically speaking, the price of silver in relation to gold for 5,000 years has been 16 to 1. There's been 16 ounces of silver in the ground for every 1 ounce of gold. I think the exact number, they call it God's ratio, was 15.5 to 1. So silver, in essence, is much more abundant geologically. But the big deposits were found decades ago, long before the advent of advanced imagery, because the geologic term for silver in terms of where it's found is epithermal, and meaning it's very near the surface. And so last year alone, only roughly 30 to 35%, call it a billion ounces, were mined. Roughly 300 to 350 million ounces came from companies that mine silver, period. The other 650 to 700 million ounces came from companies that don't mine silver at all. And now you only get 3 out of 10 ounces that are mined from companies that are looking specifically for silver. So this is a depleting asset in an environment where the demand is increasing exponentially in green, in digital, in military, and in monetary applications. And so if we fast forward to roughly the Industrial Revolution, let's say 100, 150, 200 years ago, the average price, gold to silver, largely because of gold's role as money and the logistics of it, has averaged roughly 42 to 1 price. The geologic ratio has always been 16 to 1 until now. My good buddy Keith Newmeyer, who I believe you know, and he's told me personally on at least 3 or 4 occasions and publicly just a couple months ago at the Rule Symposium, that what is coming out of the ground right now globally is 7 to 1. So it's depleting to the point where you're only getting 7 ounces of silver out of the ground for every 1 ounce of gold. It's been 16 to 1 for thousands of years. The price ratio, because of logistics and monetary applications, has been roughly 42 to 1 for almost 200 years, even though it was 16 to 1 geologic ratio, right? You have what I believe to be the most undervalued asset on the planet, that being silver. We're going to see at least 200 million ounce shortfall between supply and demand. It is an asset that is needed in so many ways, or so many forms of manufacturing, in terms of green and digital applications, and copious amounts that are growing every day. India imported 304 million ounces of silver last year. That's 10 times more than the registered category on COMEX holds. Those are the bars that are available for delivery. And if you talk to people like Ted Butler, probably the foremost expert on the COMEX market and its relationship to silver, he will tell you there is a growing, very, very large growing shortage of industrial-sized 1,000-ounce silver bars. But it's not just in COMEX that you're seeing these bars delivered off the exchange, copious amounts. We're seeing same thing happen in the London Metals Exchange. At the beginning of the year, they told us if the deliveries continued the way they did last year, there'd be no silver left. We're seeing it on the Shanghai Metals Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange. They had their biggest one-day delivery of silver ever last week or the week before. We're seeing backdooring out of the ETFs by the authorized participants, largely the commercial banks. So we are seeing silver disappear. We are seeing the price suppressed. Again, talking about the counterintuitive nature of the price. At the same time, the biggest money in the world is accumulating it and removing any and all counterparty risk by pulling it off of the exchanges. And I think it's the value of a generation. Honest to God, I believe it is the value, the play, the trade of a generation. You are seeing a depletion of silver, an increase in its uses, a suppression of the price. It is the trade of a generation. You look at everything since 1980, it's gone through the roof. Where's silver? Half of where it was in 1980. Does that seem right to you? Look at gold. It's just $100 basically off its all-time high. Silver's half of it. And yet it has more uses and needs industrially, militarily, and now monetarily than gold does. And it should be much higher. I think it's the play of a generation. What are the headwinds? The manipulation on COMEX, period. You have banks that are holding down the price. And so when you talk about the importance of it, the price is being betrayed by the drawdown from the world's exchanges. And I guess I'll say it to you this way, Jesse. It would be far easier for you or Eric Sprott or Rick Rule, someone who could write out a check for $100 million, to give me a check for $100 million to buy silver than it would be to take delivery off the Shanghai Metals Exchange, off the COMEX, off the LBMA. You need to be massively sophisticated to do that. And so who's taking it? Where is it going? Why is it disappearing? It certainly is not indicative of its price. And I will go on record as saying I believe it to be the value proposition of a generation. The fundamentals are way, way, way distorted from the price. The uses that silver has right now in green and digital and military applications, I think people put too much stock on the fact that it will slow down in a recession. Yeah, it is an industrial metal, but it's become a lot more than that. And I think people understand that. And even in a recession, you have a green agenda all around the world. There are people that are buying solar panels. There are people that are buying electric vehicles. There is a ever increasing need for silver in the military industrial complex, and silver's role is money. I think it will outperform people's expectations because really what we are missing in all of this analysis, and I love Michael Oliver too. He's one of my favorite, the momentum analysis. He's different than most everyone else in the way he views the world because of momentum. Incredibly smart man. So Michael, you got my respect as well. I watch everything you put out too. I think it's different this time, Jesse. I think ask yourself, why do we have 3 or 4 banks holding the largest concentrated position of any commodity traded? Why? Why is silver so important to hold it down? I don't understand it. Or maybe it's a little deeper. Maybe it is a strategic metal.